There are so many CVs coming through now, so many, and so little time to get through all those CVs. And yet you want to give each candidate, that kind of gold star candidate experience. How do you do that? How do you do that in a world where particularly candidates are using AI even more? But how do you combat that when people find it so much more easier, so much faster to apply for jobs, which means you're having to get through even more CVs and still meet your hiring deadlines? So that is what this topic's all about. So I'm going to hand over to Mehak and Jennifer, who are going to talk you through it. Round of applause.
Hi, good morning. We're happy to see you all here, and we see some fans out, but let's hope at least it promises to be a slightly cloudy, slightly windy day. We're on the Innovate stage, so the expectation is to talk about technology and innovation, but really, at the heart of it all is talent, and that is a crisis at the moment with AI. But there's also a bigger crisis looming, and I was reading today on the way here that one